The encounter. It was a bright morning in the affluent Crestwood Heights neighborhood, a place where the sun spilled through the tall oak trees lining the quiet streets. The well-manicured lawns and pristine sidewalks painted a picture of a perfect community, seemingly untouched by the problems of the outside world. Yet beneath this serene facade, the undercurrents of bias and misunderstanding were poised to surface. Devin Brooks, a black man in his late 30s, drove through the neighborhood in his sleek black sedan. Clad in a sharply tailored dark blue suit, his polished shoes resting neatly on the pedals, he exuded an air of confidence and composure. Devin had worked tirelessly to build a successful career as a corporate attorney. He was well respected in his field, known for his keen intellect and unwavering integrity. Yet, despite his accomplishments, he couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability that accompanied him whenever he entered spaces not typically associated with people who looked like him. As he navigated the winding roads of Crestwood Heights, Devin enjoyed the soothing melody of jazz playing softly on the radio. The notes wrapped around him like a comforting embrace, momentarily easing the tension he often felt as a black man in predominantly white spaces. However, his tranquility was abruptly interrupted by the distant sound of police sirens. At first, Devin didn't think much of it, but as the sirens grew closer, his instincts kicked in. Glancing at the rearview mirror, he noticed two squad cars pulling up behind him, their lights flashing ominously. A heavy sense of foreboding washed over him. He took a slow breath, pulling to the side of the road and stopping his car. He knew what was coming. He had been here before. As the two officers approached his vehicle, their steps heavy with authority, Devin felt a familiar mix of anxiety and resolve. He kept his hands on the steering wheel, palms up, a silent signal of compliance. His heart raced as one officer approached the driver's side, while the other moved to the passenger side. "Good morning, sir. Do you know why we pulled you over?" The officer at the driver's side window asked, his tone a mix of authority and suspicion. "No, officer. I'm not sure what the issue is," Devin replied, maintaining eye contact, his voice calm. "We'd received a report of a suspicious vehicle in this area, and it seems you fit the description," the officer said, his eyes scrutinizing Devin's every movement. Devin felt a pang of frustration. He knew that fitting the description often had a specific connotation for people like him, a stark reminder of the racial biases that pervaded law enforcement. "I assure you, I'm just passing through. I live in the neighboring town, and I'm on my way to a meeting." The officer frowned, his gaze unwavering. "Can I see your license and registration?" Devin reached into his glove compartment, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. He retrieved his documents, handing them over with care. "Here you go." As the officer examined the documents, Devin could feel the tension rising. He couldn't help but notice the way the officer's partner was positioned slightly behind him, hand resting on the holster of his gun, ready to react at the slightest hint of trouble. "Why don't you step out of the vehicle?" the first officer demanded, suddenly raising his voice. Devin's heart sank. He had read stories of similar encounters escalating into violence, and he felt the weight of history pressing down on him. "Is there a reason I need to get out of the car?" Devin asked, trying to keep his voice steady, though he could feel the tremors of anxiety creeping in. "We just want to talk," the officer replied, but there was a tone in his voice that suggested otherwise. Devin could sense the condescension dripping from the words. "Look, I haven't done anything wrong," Devin said, taking a deep breath to steady himself. "I'm a corporate attorney, and I assure you, I'm not a threat." The officer stepped closer, a mixture of disbelief and disdain on his face. "What does that even mean?" "It means I'm not a criminal," Devin stated firmly, feeling the urgency to defend himself against the unspoken prejudices swirling in the air. "I work hard, I contribute to my community, and I expect to be treated with respect." But the officer's expression didn't change. He seemed unimpressed by Devin's credentials. Instead, he took a step back, signaling to his partner, who now approached the car with a menacing posture. "Step out of the vehicle now," the partner barked, his voice loud and aggressive. Devon's pulse quickened. He understood that compliance was his best option, but the implications of this request loomed heavy in the air. He opened the door slowly, careful to keep his hands in view, stepping out with a mix of fear and determination. As he stood beside his car, the officers towered over him, their bodies tense and ready. "What's your name?" the first officer asked, his voice laced with skepticism. "Devon Brooks," he replied, his chin raised slightly, refusing to show fear despite the circumstances. The second officer pulled out a notepad and began jotting down notes, glancing at Devon with narrowed eyes. "And what do you do for a living?" "I'm a corporate attorney," Devon repeated, fighting to maintain his composure. "I work at a firm downtown. You can check my ID. There's nothing wrong." The first officer's brow furrowed as he continued to question Devon. "Do you have any weapons in the vehicle?" "No, I do not." Devon felt his frustration boiling over as he was treated like a criminal without reason. "I'm just driving through. I haven't done anything illegal." Just then, a third officer arrived, bringing with him a palpable sense of unease. Devon felt his stomach drop as he realized the situation was escalating. The officer's presence only heightened the tension, and he could see the skepticism in their eyes. "Why are you in this neighborhood?" the third officer questioned, his tone accusatory. "What brings you here?" "I'm just passing through," Devon insisted. "I have an important meeting." "I have no ill intentions." The officers exchanged glances, their disbelief palpable. Devon knew they were struggling to reconcile the narrative they had constructed in their minds with the man standing before them. The silence hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the biases ingrained in their perceptions. Suddenly, the first officer's radio crackled to life, interrupting the charged atmosphere. "All units, we have a 10 to 34 at the Crestwood Heights Park," the dispatcher announced. "Need all available units." The first officer glanced at his partner, and in that moment, Devon felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps they would be forced to let him go, to confront the error of their assumptions. But when the first officer returned his gaze to Devon, there was a steely resolve etched on his face. "Stay put," he ordered before stepping away to confer with his colleagues. As Devon stood there, he couldn't help but feel a profound sense of injustice. How could they not see him for who he was? How could they reduce him to a stereotype? The weight of their biases pressed down on him, suffocating and relentless. In the midst of this turmoil, Devon closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He knew he had to remain calm. He had to find a way to turn this situation around. He thought of his family, his friends, and the countless individuals who had fought against similar injustices. Just as he was gathering his thoughts, the first officer returned, and a strange look crossed his face. "What do you want to do, man? You can make this easy or hard." Devon squared his shoulders, determined to stand his ground. "I want you to treat me with respect. I want to be seen for who I am, not what you think I am." At that moment, everything hung in the balance. The officers were at a crossroads, faced with a choice: continue down the path of prejudice or confront the reality of their assumptions. As tensions rose and the future remained uncertain, Devon stood resolute, ready to fight for his dignity and truth. The weight of prejudice. As the air around Devon grew heavier with the unspoken tension, the first officer shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable with the exchange. He glanced over at his partner, who remained on high alert, eyes trained on Devon as if he were a potential threat. The other officers had retreated a few steps, engaging in low conversations, their expressions betraying uncertainty. Devon could see that they were not just confronting him, but also grappling with their own preconceived notions. "Look, I understand this situation may be unusual for you," Devon began, trying to diffuse the rising hostility. "But I assure you, I'm just a man trying to live my life. I have a family, responsibilities, and a career I've worked hard to build. I want to be treated with the dignity I deserve." His voice carried a steadiness that surprised even him. He wasn't just fighting for his own dignity. He was standing for all the others who had faced similar injustices. The first officer, visibly conflicted, took a deep breath. "It's just, we get a lot of reports about suspicious activity around here," he finally admitted, though his tone remained defensive. "It's our job to investigate." Devon nodded, wanting to respond with understanding rather than anger. "I get that. But it's important to remember that not everyone who looks different or drives a nice car is up to no good. This neighborhood might not be familiar to me, but I am not a criminal. I'm just passing through." The officers exchanged glances again, their expressions flickering with doubt. Devon could see the wheels turning in their minds, a slow realization creeping in. Maybe they were beginning to grasp the weight of their actions, the consequences of their assumptions. As he stood there, a wave of memories washed over him, moments from his childhood that shaped his understanding of racial injustice. He remembered his father, a strong man who had faced discrimination in his own career. "Just keep your head up and stay true to yourself, son," his father would say. "Don't let the world change who you are." Those words echoed in his mind now, reminding him of the strength that came from resilience. "Listen, Devon," the first officer said, his tone softening slightly. "We're just trying to do our job, and sometimes it's tough to know what's really going on. But I see you're dressed well, and you seem like you're in control of the situation." "Because I am," Devon interjected, feeling the urgency of the moment. "But it's not about me being in control. It's about you understanding that your role should not come with prejudice. It's your duty to protect and serve everyone, not just those who fit a certain mold." The officer fell silent, processing Devon's words. There was a flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes, a moment of clarity that cut through the thick tension. Devon seized the opportunity, hoping to break the cycle of misunderstanding. "I want to share my story," he said, taking a step closer, the distance between them shifting slightly. "If you give me a chance to tell you who I am, maybe you'll see that I'm just like you. I've faced challenges, fought battles, and overcome obstacles. I'm here to build bridges, not walls." At that moment, the third officer, who had been standing off to the side, interrupted. "You think this is just about you?" he asked, a harsh edge to his voice. "We've got a job to do, and people around here are on edge. It's not just about your story. We have to protect this community." Devon felt a surge of anger rise within him, but fought to keep his composure. "I understand your concerns, but that doesn't mean you have to judge me based on the color of my skin. Every person has a story, a reason for being in a particular place at a certain time. You don't know my background, my struggles, or the obstacles I've faced to get where I am today." The officer looked at him, disbelief etched on his face. "You think we don't know what it's like? We're out here every day facing danger. You don't get to lecture us on how to do our job." Devon took a deep breath, knowing he needed to reach them somehow. "I'm not lecturing. I'm asking for understanding. There's a way to engage with people that doesn't begin with suspicion. I've encountered people of all backgrounds in my career, and I know that prejudice only breeds division." The first officer stepped forward again, seemingly torn between his training and the reality of the moment. "What if we're wrong? What if you are a criminal? Then I would deserve to be treated as one," Devon replied, his voice steady. "But right now, I'm just a man in a suit trying to navigate my way through a community I'm not familiar with. You have the power to choose how you see me, either as a suspect or as a fellow human being." For a moment, silence hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their respective positions. The first officer glanced at his partner, a flicker of uncertainty passing between them. Devon could see that they were reconsidering the narrative they had constructed. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life again. "All units, the suspect has been apprehended at the park. We need assistance at Crestwood Heights," the dispatcher said urgently. The officers exchanged hurried glances, their expressions shifting from doubt to determination. "We have to go," the third officer said, looking back at Devon. "You're not off the hook yet." "But you just said you would let me go if you realized." Devon protested, but the officer interrupted. "Stay put. We'll be back. You might not be a criminal, but you have to understand that we can't just let you walk away." The first officer stepped back, his expression conflicted as he nodded at his partner. "Let's just check the vehicle one more time before we go. We can't afford to take any risks." Devin felt the frustration bubble over again. "You're wasting your time. You're treating me like a criminal when I haven't done anything wrong." The officers ignored him, moving back to his car, searching the glove compartment and the back seat. Devin watched, a mix of anger and helplessness flooding through him. This wasn't just about him. It was about a system that perpetuated injustice, a reality that cast shadows over countless lives. As they rummaged through his belongings, Devin's mind raced. He thought of the people who had come before him, those who had faced injustice, discrimination, and prejudice. He thought of the strength of his ancestors who had fought for their rights, and he felt a surge of determination. "Listen, I want to be clear," he called out, raising his voice slightly. "I will not be defined by your biases. I will not allow this moment to diminish my worth or the truth of who I am." One of the officers paused, glancing back at him, and for a fleeting moment, their eyes met. Devin could see the conflict within them, a moment of humanity breaking through the armor of prejudice. But before he could speak again, they resumed their search, ignoring his plea. After what felt like an eternity, the officers finally stepped back from the vehicle, their faces unreadable. "You're lucky this time," the first officer said, though his tone lacked any semblance of apology. "But we'll be watching you. Don't think this is over." Devin swallowed hard, trying to keep his composure. "You may think you're watching me, but I promise you, I'll be watching you too. And I'll continue to speak out against this injustice." As the officers climbed back into their vehicles, he felt a surge of determination. This encounter wouldn't define him. It was just another chapter in his story, a story of resilience and strength, a story he would continue to share. As the squad cars pulled away, Devin stood tall, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. He knew the fight against prejudice was far from over, but he was resolute in his belief that change could come, one conversation at a time. In the distance, he saw a small group of people watching the scene unfold. Their expressions mirrored a mix of curiosity and concern, and Devin felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this moment would spark conversations beyond himself. Perhaps it could inspire others to confront their biases, to challenge the assumptions that often led to such encounters. With that thought in mind, Devin took a deep breath, ready to reclaim his narrative and share his truth. He knew that as he moved forward, he carried not only his own story, but also the stories of many others who had faced similar injustices, and in that strength, he found his purpose, a commitment to continue fighting for a world where understanding and respect transcended prejudice. Unfolding truths. After the squad cars sped away, the serene atmosphere of Crestwood Heights felt altered, the echoes of the encounter hanging in the air like an unresolved melody. Devin stood on the side of the road, collecting his thoughts and steadying his breath. The sun now hung lower in the sky, casting long shadows that mirrored the weight of the experience he had just endured. He glanced around, noticing the small group of onlookers who had been witnesses to the scene, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. Among them was a young woman in her 20s, dressed in casual workout clothes, her eyes wide with a blend of empathy and disbelief. She approached Devin cautiously, her voice soft yet firm. "I saw what happened back there. Are you okay?" Devin nodded, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "I'm fine, but it's disheartening to see how quickly assumptions can lead to confrontation. I'm just a man trying to navigate my life without prejudice clouding the way." The woman nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. "I can't believe they treated you that way. It's like they didn't even see you as a person. Just a threat." "Exactly," Devin replied, his frustration bubbling to the surface again. "This isn't just about me. It's about a system that perpetuates fear and misunderstanding. It's exhausting to constantly prove my humanity to others." As they spoke, a middle-aged man stepped forward, his brow wrinkled with concern. I witnessed the whole thing. You handled yourself with such grace under pressure. I wish I could say the same about those officers. Devin felt a warmth spread through him at the man's words. Thank you, but it's not just about how I responded. We all need to hold each other accountable, including those who are meant to protect us. I completely agree, the woman chimed in. This community needs to have open discussions about race and prejudice. We can't just pretend these issues don't exist. Encouraged by their responses, Devin felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. Exactly. Change starts with conversations like this. It's essential for us to challenge our biases, understand one another, and create a more inclusive environment. The man nodded vigorously. I've lived in this neighborhood for years, and I've seen how certain groups are treated differently. I think people are afraid to speak up because they fear backlash. But that only perpetuates the problem. Fear shouldn't dictate our actions, Devin asserted, his voice growing stronger. We must be brave enough to confront these issues, even if it makes us uncomfortable. Otherwise, nothing will change. Encouraged by their shared commitment, the small group began to discuss ideas for community gatherings, forums to share stories, workshops on racial sensitivity, and initiatives to bridge gaps between different cultures. Devin felt a sense of empowerment as their conversation flowed, envisioning the potential for positive change. As they talked, Devin shared his own story, how he had faced challenges as a black man in a predominantly white industry, navigating biases and breaking barriers. It's like walking a tightrope, he explained. One misstep, and you risk falling into a chasm of prejudice. But I learned to maintain my balance by focusing on my goals and surrounding myself with people who uplift and support me. The man, who introduced himself as Mark, responded with his own experiences. I grew up in a diverse neighborhood, but moved here for a fresh start. It's been eye-opening to see how different communities interact. It makes me question my own biases, even ones I didn't know I had. Devin nodded in understanding. We all have biases. It's part of being human. The key is to recognize them and strive to be better. It's a continuous journey, not a destination. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, a small crowd began to gather. More neighbors emerged, drawn in by the conversation that unfolded. Some had witnessed the incident. Others were simply curious about the discussion. One woman, older and with a commanding presence, stepped forward. I'm Lucy, she introduced herself. I've lived in this neighborhood for decades, and I want to say how sorry I am for what you experienced today. It's unacceptable. Devin felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Thank you, Lucy. It's important for us to acknowledge these injustices and work toward change together. As the conversation continued to grow, it became a space for vulnerability and honesty. People shared their own experiences, some detailing moments of fear and discomfort due to their race or background, while others opened up about their struggles with understanding racial dynamics. Devin listened intently, absorbing each story, each perspective, recognizing the shared humanity that connected them all. He realized that this moment was about more than just his experience. It was a catalyst for a community awakening. Maybe we could start a community group, suggested a younger man in the crowd. A safe space for people to come together, share their experiences, and educate each other. We could invite local leaders and have discussions on how to promote inclusivity. I love that idea, Lucy said enthusiastically. We could even partner with schools to educate the younger generations. They need to learn early about the importance of empathy and understanding. Devin felt a surge of excitement at the thought. Yes, education is key. We have to teach the next generation that the color of someone's skin doesn't define their worth. Everyone deserves respect and understanding. As night fell, the streetlights flickered on, illuminating the faces of those gathered. Devin felt a sense of community forming, a network of individuals united by a common goal, to create change. Before the group dispersed, they exchanged contact information, vowing to meet again soon. Let's keep this momentum going, Mark said, his eyes shining with determination. "We can make a difference in our neighborhood." As the crowd slowly began to disperse, Devin felt a renewed sense of purpose. The encounter with the officers was not the end of his journey. It was merely a stepping stone toward something greater. He took one last look at the neighborhood around him, the houses glowing softly in the twilight. It was a beautiful place, but Devin knew that beauty was often skin-deep. True beauty resided in the connections formed between people, in the willingness to understand and embrace one another's differences. Devin drove home that evening, his heart lighter than when he had arrived. He reflected on the conversations, the stories shared, and the understanding that had blossomed within the community. He felt hopeful that they could create change, not just within Crestwood Heights, but beyond, rippling outward into the wider world. The next morning, as the sun rose again over the neighborhood, Devin began drafting a plan for their first community meeting. He envisioned a gathering where stories could be told, biases could be confronted, and empathy could flourish. His determination surged as he thought about the potential impact they could have, not just for themselves, but for generations to come. A call to action. The next few days passed in a blur of excitement and anticipation. Devin was energized by the conversations from that evening, his mind racing with ideas for the upcoming community meeting. He quickly reached out to the individuals he had met and others in the neighborhood, crafting a detailed plan to address the pressing issues of racial injustice and community solidarity. As he organized the meeting, Devin focused on creating a welcoming atmosphere. He envisioned a space where everyone felt safe to express their thoughts, share their experiences, and contribute to the dialogue. He chose the local community center, a central location accessible to all, and arranged for light refreshments to encourage a casual, friendly environment. In the days leading up to the meeting, Devin took to social media to spread the word. He crafted posts highlighting the importance of open conversations about race, inviting people to come together to discuss their perspectives and ideas for change. To his surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Many residents expressed eagerness to join and contribute to the discussions. The night of the meeting finally arrived. As Devin entered the community center, he was greeted by the sight of chairs arranged in a circle, symbolizing unity and equality. The room buzzed with chatter as people filled the seats, creating a vibrant atmosphere. Friends, neighbors, and even newcomers from outside the neighborhood gathered, all united by a common purpose. Devin took a moment to absorb the scene. He recognized familiar faces from the previous encounter and noticed a few new ones as well, all eager to engage. He felt a surge of gratitude for the community's willingness to come together, breaking down barriers that had long existed. Once everyone settled, Devin stood at the front, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began, his voice steady. "I'm Devin Brooks, and I'm grateful to see so many of you who care about making our community a better place for everyone. Tonight, we're here to talk about race, understanding, and how we can work together to promote equality in Crestwood Heights." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, bolstering his confidence. Devin continued, "As many of you know, I recently had a troubling experience with the police that opened my eyes to the racial dynamics in our community. But instead of allowing that incident to bring me down, I chose to take action. I believe it's our responsibility to confront these issues head-on." As he spoke, he could see heads nodding in agreement, the energy in the room palpable. He introduced the evening's agenda: sharing personal stories, discussing community issues, and brainstorming actionable steps they could take to foster inclusivity. To kick off the discussion, Devin invited anyone who felt comfortable to share their experiences. He emphasized the importance of vulnerability and honesty, reminding everyone that this was a safe space. "Remember, our goal is to listen, learn, and grow together." A woman named Angela, who had been living in the neighborhood for several years, stood up first. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "I grew up in a diverse community, but since moving here, I've felt out of place. I often worry about how my children will be perceived in this neighborhood. I want them to feel safe and accepted. Her candid sharing struck a chord with many in the room, creating an atmosphere of empathy. One by one, others began to share their own stories. A young man named Liam talked about his experiences as a biracial individual navigating two worlds. "Sometimes I feel like I don't fit in anywhere," he confessed. "People assume things about me based on my appearance, and it's frustrating." Devin listened intently, noting the common threads in each story. The struggles, the fears, the hopes for a more inclusive future resonated deeply within him. He felt a growing sense of purpose as he realized they were creating something powerful together, a movement born from shared experiences and collective resolve. As the evening progressed, discussions flowed naturally, and the initial nerves began to fade. Participants exchanged ideas on how to address issues of racial injustice within the community. They brainstormed initiatives like educational workshops in schools, mentorship programs for young people of color, and community events celebrating diversity. Lucy, the woman who had approached Devin after the traffic stop, suggested organizing a neighborhood festival to celebrate different cultures. It could be a fun way to bring people together and learn about each other's backgrounds, she proposed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. The group quickly rallied around the idea, brainstorming ways to implement it. They envisioned food stalls representing various cuisines, performances showcasing cultural traditions, and booths for local organizations dedicated to promoting equality. Devin could hardly contain his excitement. "Let's create a planning committee," he exclaimed. "We can divide tasks based on our strengths. Some of us can handle logistics, while others can focus on outreach and promotion. This is our chance to foster understanding and friendship." The energy in the room surged, enthusiasm bubbling over as people began volunteering for various roles. Devin felt a sense of unity that transcended their differences, realizing they were collectively stepping into a new era for Crestwood Heights. As the meeting drew to a close, Devin encouraged everyone to keep the conversation going. "This is just the beginning. We need to stay committed to this cause, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. Let's continue to meet, share, and learn from one another. Together, we can make a difference." As the crowd dispersed, the sense of camaraderie lingered in the air. Devin exchanged contact information with several attendees, excited about the possibilities ahead. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that they were taking concrete steps toward a more inclusive community. In the days that followed, Devin and the planning committee met regularly, solidifying their plans for the upcoming festival. They collaborated with local businesses, reached out to community leaders, and spread the word about their initiative. The excitement was palpable as more residents began to engage with their ideas. Word of their efforts began to spread, drawing the attention of local media. A reporter from the Crestwood Gazette reached out for an interview, intrigued by the grassroots movement taking shape in the neighborhood. Devin saw this as an opportunity to amplify their message and invite even more people to join their cause. When the day of the interview arrived, Devin was both nervous and exhilarated. He wanted to articulate the significance of their mission clearly, hoping to inspire others to take action. The reporter, a young woman named Clara, arrived at the community center with a bright smile and a notepad in hand. "Thanks for meeting with me, Devin," Clara said, settling into a chair across from him. "I've heard some amazing things about what you and your neighbors are doing here." Devin smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and opportunity. "Thank you for coming, Clara. We're really excited about the festival and the conversations we're fostering in our community. We want to show that Crestwood Heights values inclusivity and understanding." As they talked, Devin shared the stories from their recent meetings, the collective determination to confront racial injustices, and the hope for a brighter future. Clara listened attentively, jotting down notes as she asked questions, her genuine interest making him feel at ease. "What do you think is the biggest challenge you face in this endeavor?" she asked, her eyes focused. Devin paused, considering the question. "I think one of our biggest challenges is breaking down the barriers of fear and misunderstanding. Many people are afraid to speak up or confront their biases. We have to create a space where everyone feels comfortable discussing these issues, even when it's uncomfortable. Clara nodded thoughtfully. That's a crucial point. And how do you plan to keep the momentum going beyond the festival? That's the key, Devon replied, feeling a spark of inspiration. We need to establish ongoing dialogues, workshops, and community events that promote learning and connection. It can't just be a one-time event. It has to be a continuous effort. As the interview wrapped up, Clara expressed her enthusiasm for the project, promising to feature their story prominently in the upcoming edition of the Gazette. Devon left the meeting with a renewed sense of hope, believing that their efforts could inspire others not only in Crestwood Heights but throughout the entire region. The day of the festival finally arrived, and excitement filled the air. Colorful banners adorned the community center grounds, and tables overflowed with delicious foods representing various cultures. Music played in the background, creating a joyful atmosphere as families and friends gathered to celebrate diversity. Devon stood at the entrance, welcoming guests with a smile, feeling a swell of pride in what they had accomplished. He watched as people mingled, sharing stories, tasting different cuisines, and engaging in conversations that bridged gaps. As the day progressed, Devon took a moment to reflect on the journey that had led them here. The encounter with the police, initially painful and disheartening, had sparked a movement that brought the community together. He realized that sometimes adversity could be the catalyst for profound change. The festival concluded with a powerful closing ceremony, where several attendees shared their experiences and insights from the day. Devon stepped up to the microphone, his heart full as he addressed the crowd. Today has been a testament to our strength as a community. We've shown that when we come together, we can create change and promote understanding. Let's carry this spirit forward and continue the conversations we've started here. As the applause echoed around him, Devon felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. The journey was far from over, but they had taken significant strides toward creating a more inclusive environment in Crestwood Heights. As people began to disperse, Devon caught sight of a familiar face, the police officer who had initially pulled him over. Officer Ramirez stood at the edge of the crowd, observing the festivities with a contemplative expression. Devon felt a surge of mixed emotions, but chose to approach him, determined to bridge the gap. "Officer Ramirez," Devon called out, extending a hand. "I'm glad you could make it today." The officer looked surprised but accepted the handshake, a hint of a smile on his face. "Thank you for the invitation, Devon. It's impressive to see this community come together." "I appreciate that," Devon replied, his voice steady. "I hope this is a sign of things changing. We can build bridges, you know. It starts with understanding." Officer Ramirez nodded, his expression softening. "You're right. I think I've learned a lot from this experience. I'd like to support these efforts moving forward." Devon felt a flicker of hope. That would mean a lot. Together, we can work to foster trust between the police and the community. As they talked, Devon realized that healing the rift required mutual understanding. Both sides needed to acknowledge their experiences and work together to pave a path toward reconciliation. The conversation became a pivotal moment, marking the beginning of a new relationship built on respect and cooperation. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the festival, Devon felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had embarked on a journey of healing and growth, and he knew that this was just the beginning. Together, they would continue to work towards a brighter, more inclusive future for Crestwood Heights, where every voice mattered and every story was valued. Uniting for change. As the weeks unfolded after the successful festival, the spirit of unity and determination continued to permeate Crestwood Heights. Devon found himself in the role of a community leader, a position he had never expected to occupy, but embraced wholeheartedly. The conversations sparked during the festival didn't die down. Instead, they ignited a fire within the neighborhood, inspiring more residents to participate in discussions about race, justice, and inclusivity. Devon knew the importance of maintaining the momentum they had generated, Together with the planning committee, he organized regular community meetings to discuss the progress made and the issues still at hand. They created a calendar of events, including workshops on racial sensitivity, guest speakers from various backgrounds, and initiatives that encouraged collaboration between residents and law enforcement. One evening, as he prepared for another meeting, Devin reflected on the journey thus far. He recalled the fear and uncertainty that had initially gripped him during the traffic stop, the feeling of being judged solely by the color of his skin. But now, that experience had become a catalyst for change, pushing him to advocate for a more just and equitable community. As Devin arrived at the community center for the meeting, he was greeted by familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and even some newcomers who had heard about their efforts. The atmosphere was charged with enthusiasm, and the energy was contagious. Devin smiled as he surveyed the room, proud of the progress they had made. "Welcome, everyone," he said, standing at the front of the room. "I'm so glad to see all of you here tonight. Our last gathering was a huge success, and I'm excited to discuss the next steps we can take to continue fostering understanding and unity in our community." As they settled in, Devin facilitated a discussion about the recent festival's impact. He encouraged everyone to share their thoughts on what resonated with them and how they felt about the direction the community was heading. The conversations flowed freely, filled with genuine passion and insights. A woman named Sarah spoke up, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "I loved how the festival brought so many people together. It showed us that we can create a safe space for dialogue. I think we should plan more events like that, maybe even start a book club focusing on literature about race and identity." Nods of agreement spread throughout the room, and Devin encouraged them to brainstorm ideas. They discussed the importance of literature as a tool for understanding different perspectives. As suggestions bounced around the room, a young man named Jamal spoke up. "What if we also organized community cleanup days? It could be a way to beautify our neighborhood, while also bringing people together." Devin loved the idea. "That's fantastic. Engaging in a shared task can foster relationships and create a sense of ownership over our community. Let's make that happen." As they continued to brainstorm ideas, Devin felt a deep sense of connection with those around him. They were no longer just neighbors. They had become allies in a shared mission to create lasting change. The conversations turned into actionable plans, and soon the group established several initiatives to promote unity and understanding. They formed committees to address different aspects of their vision. One group focused on education, working to establish partnerships with local schools to implement diversity training and cultural awareness programs. Another committee was dedicated to outreach, aiming to engage more residents and ensure everyone had a voice in the ongoing discussions. As the days turned into weeks, Devin found himself busier than ever, but he relished the work. He felt a sense of purpose in every meeting, every conversation, and every interaction. His life was no longer defined by the fear and prejudice he had faced. It was enriched by the relationships he was building and the positive changes he was fostering in the community. One evening, during a particularly vibrant meeting, Officer Ramirez attended again, this time not just as an observer, but as an active participant. He had become an ally, willing to listen and learn from the experiences of community members. Devin felt a sense of hope as he watched the interactions unfold, seeing how the officer's presence was beginning to shift perceptions among some residents. "Thank you for having me again," Officer Ramirez said, standing up to speak. "I appreciate the opportunity to engage in these discussions. It's been eye-opening to hear your experiences and understand the impact of policing on the community. I want to be a part of the change." Devin felt a surge of gratitude as he listened to the officer. "Thank you for being here, Officer Ramirez. Your willingness to engage in these conversations is a crucial step toward rebuilding trust between the police and the community." As the meeting progressed, they discussed plans for a community forum to address police-community relations more directly. Devin suggested inviting other officers to participate in the discussions, encouraging open dialogue between law enforcement and residents. The idea was met with enthusiasm, and the group quickly began planning the details. In the weeks that followed, the committee worked tirelessly to promote the upcoming forum. They reached out to local organizations, schools, and community centers, inviting residents to come share their thoughts and experiences. Devin was excited to see the growing interest as more people began to engage with the initiative. On the day of the forum, the community center buzzed with anticipation. Devin arrived early to set up, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He wanted this event to create a safe space for people to voice their concerns and share their stories. As attendees began to fill the room, Devin greeted them warmly, thanking them for coming. He recognized many familiar faces, alongside new ones eager to engage in the conversation. The atmosphere was charged with emotion as people gathered, united by a desire for understanding and change. Devin stood at the front of the room, a mixture of determination and vulnerability in his voice. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today. This forum is an opportunity for us to discuss our experiences with law enforcement and how we can work together to build a better future for our community." He introduced Officer Ramirez, who shared his perspective on the importance of building trust and understanding between the police and the community. "I recognize that there are systemic issues in policing that need to be addressed," he said earnestly. "But I believe that through open dialogue, we can work together to create meaningful change." The crowd listened attentively, and Devin felt a sense of hope swell within him. This was a pivotal moment, a chance for residents to express their concerns while fostering understanding between the community and law enforcement. As the forum progressed, residents began sharing their stories, each one more powerful than the last. A young woman named Maya spoke about her experiences with racial profiling, detailing a moment where she felt unjustly treated during a routine traffic stop. "It's not just about a single incident," she explained, her voice trembling. "It's about the fear that comes with being targeted for who you are. It's exhausting." Tension filled the room as others shared similar stories, highlighting the pain and frustration many felt regarding their interactions with law enforcement. Devin listened intently, acknowledging the validity of each experience. He could see Officer Ramirez visibly moved by the stories shared, his expression shifting as he processed the realities the community faced. Devin then turned the conversation toward solutions, asking attendees what changes they wanted to see. Suggestions poured in: training for officers on cultural sensitivity, community liaisons to bridge the gap, and regular meetings between law enforcement and residents to foster ongoing communication. "I think it's important for police officers to be present in our community outside of enforcement," Devin suggested. "Building relationships during everyday activities can help break down barriers and change perceptions." Officer Ramirez nodded in agreement. "That's a vital point. I think we can explore initiatives where officers engage in community events, not just during emergencies. It's about being part of the community, not apart from it." As the forum continued, Devin felt the atmosphere shift from tension to collaboration. Attendees were no longer just sharing grievances. They were brainstorming solutions together, united by a common goal. The realization that they could enact change through open communication became a powerful catalyst for hope. As the meeting concluded, Devin was filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had created a safe space for dialogue, and the conversation sparked a new understanding between the community and law enforcement. The forum was just the beginning. He knew they would continue to build on this momentum. As people filed out of the community center, Devin caught Officer Ramirez's eye. The officer approached him, a grateful expression on his face. "Thank you for organizing this, Devin. It was enlightening for me, and I appreciate the chance to hear these stories directly from the community." Devin smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "Thank you for being open to this conversation. Together, we can continue to work toward understanding and change." That evening, Devin returned home, reflecting on the day's events. He felt a profound sense of purpose, knowing that they were making strides toward fostering a more inclusive community. The conversations they had started were essential, and he was determined to keep pushing for change. As he settled into bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was only just beginning. There was still much work to do, but he believed that together they could overcome the challenges ahead and create a community where everyone felt valued, heard, and respected. With each step they took, they were weaving a brighter future for Crestwood Heights, one rooted in empathy, understanding, and unity. A new dawn. The following months saw a profound transformation within Crestwood Heights. The dialogue sparked during the community forum had ignited a chain reaction, fostering a sense of camaraderie that the neighborhood had never experienced before. Devin, now deeply entrenched in his role as a community leader, continued to champion initiatives that promoted inclusivity and understanding. But he understood that real change was a slow, ongoing process, requiring continuous effort from everyone involved. With each passing week, the community organized various events designed to deepen their collective understanding and break down barriers. Workshops on cultural awareness filled the calendar, alongside family-friendly festivals that celebrated the diversity of Crestwood Heights. Devin felt a sense of pride watching people from different backgrounds come together, share meals, stories, and laughter, reinforcing the fabric of their community. One day, as Devin prepared for another workshop on racial sensitivity, he received a call from Officer Ramirez. "Hey Devin, I hope you're doing well. I was wondering if we could meet up to discuss some ideas I have for enhancing our outreach efforts with the community." "Absolutely. I'd love to hear your thoughts," Devin replied, his excitement evident. "Let's meet at the community center this afternoon." As they sat across from each other at the center's round table, Ramirez laid out his vision. "I've been thinking about ways to bring more officers into community events, not just for policing but to genuinely connect with residents. I believe if they see us as part of the community, it could significantly change perceptions." "I completely agree," Devin replied, nodding. "If we can encourage officers to engage in community service projects, it would show that they care about the community beyond their duties. It could help build trust." Their brainstorming session resulted in an exciting plan for a community policing day, where officers would participate in various community service projects, from helping clean local parks to engaging with youth through sports and educational activities. The idea was to showcase a human side of law enforcement, while also reinforcing a sense of solidarity within the neighborhood. As they finalized the plans, Devin felt a rush of hope. The concept not only aimed to bridge the gap between police and residents, but also highlighted the shared responsibility everyone had in creating a safe and inclusive environment. With the date set for the Community Policing Day, Devin and Officer Ramirez got to work promoting the event. They reached out to local organizations, schools, and businesses, encouraging everyone to participate. Flyers were distributed, social media campaigns launched, and enthusiasm grew as the event approached. On the day of the event, the sun shone brightly over Crestwood Heights, illuminating the diverse crowd that gathered at the community park. Families, children, and local leaders mingled, all united by a common goal: to build a stronger community. Devin arrived early, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. He watched as officers arrived, some in uniform, others in casual attire, ready to roll up their sleeves and engage with residents. The sight of officers setting up tables for activities and cleaning supplies brought a smile to his face. "Thank you for being here," Devin said, approaching Officer Ramirez. "It means a lot to have the police department involved in this way." Ramirez smiled, his demeanor warm. "We're all here to serve the community, and today is about showing that we're partners in this effort." As the activities commenced, Devin led a workshop on conflict resolution, encouraging participants to share their experiences and engage in role-playing scenarios. The room was filled with laughter and thoughtful discussions, with both residents and officers participating actively. The barriers that once seemed insurmountable were gradually crumbling, replaced by a sense of shared humanity. Meanwhile, children played games organized by the police, who handed out prizes and snacks, laughter echoing throughout the park. The atmosphere was vibrant, and Devin could feel the energy shift. The event was a testament to the possibility of building a more united community. As the day progressed, Devin took a moment to step back and observe. He watched as Officer Ramirez sat with a group of young boys, playing basketball and sharing stories about their lives. It warmed his heart to see the mutual respect growing between the officers and the community. It was a beautiful sight, one that reflected the change that we're all striving for. Later, as the event came to a close, Devin gathered everyone for a final reflection. "Thank you all for coming today," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "This event isn't just about today. It's about the connections we've made and the understanding we've fostered. Let's carry this energy forward and continue to support one another." The crowd erupted in applause, the sound resonating with hope and determination. Devin felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. They had created something meaningful together. As the weeks passed, the momentum from the Community Policing Day continued to influence the community. The initiatives they had launched began to yield tangible results. Officers were seen more frequently in community events, and residents felt increasingly comfortable engaging with them. Devin found himself reflecting on his journey, recalling the painful moments that had sparked this movement. It was surreal to think how a routine traffic stop had led to such profound change. Yet he understood that the work was far from over. While they had made strides, there were still hurdles to overcome. One evening, as he sat at his kitchen table, Devin received an unexpected message. It was from a national news outlet expressing interest in featuring the efforts of Crestwood Heights in their upcoming segment on community policing relationships across the country. They wanted to highlight the positive changes and the initiatives they had developed. Excitement surged through him as he considered the opportunity. "This could be an incredible way to share our story and inspire other communities," he thought. He quickly gathered his thoughts and sent a response, eager to collaborate with the media. The following week, a film crew arrived in Crestwood Heights to document their journey. Devin felt a mix of nerves and excitement as he met with the producers, discussing the community's transformation and the importance of their initiatives. He wanted to ensure they captured the essence of what they had achieved together. The crew interviewed residents, police officers, and community leaders, sharing their stories of growth and understanding. The footage showed vibrant scenes from the Community Policing Day, highlighting the connections forged through shared experiences. It was a heartwarming portrayal of a community coming together to overcome prejudice and build trust. As the segment aired on national television, Devin felt a sense of pride swell within him. The story of Crestwood Heights was now reaching a broader audience, showcasing the power of collaboration and understanding. Viewers from all over the country were inspired by their journey, and the feedback poured in. "Your community is a model for others to follow," one comment read. "This is the change we need in our neighborhoods." The recognition only fueled Devin's determination. He understood that while their journey had been transformative, it was crucial to keep pushing for further change. Inspired by the national attention, he organized a larger community summit, inviting other neighborhoods to share their experiences and learn from Crestwood Heights. As Devin stood at the podium during the summit, addressing a diverse crowd of residents and leaders from various communities, he felt a deep sense of responsibility. Today, we're not just sharing our story, we're creating a movement. We want to show that real change is possible when we come together as a community, irrespective of our backgrounds. The energy in the room was palpable as attendees engaged in discussions and shared their experiences. The event fostered a sense of solidarity, and Devin felt hopeful about the future of not just Crestwood Heights, but countless neighborhoods seeking change. Over the next few months, the ripple effect of their efforts spread, inspiring other communities to initiate similar dialogues. Devin received messages from people around the country, eager to learn about their approach and adapt it to their unique circumstances. With each conversation, Devin emphasized the importance of listening, understanding, and compassion. He firmly believed that change begins with the willingness to engage in dialogue and recognize the shared humanity within each person. As he continued to share his story, he remained grounded in the values that had driven him throughout this journey. He understood that every conversation mattered, every connection built, and every barrier broken brought them one step closer to a more inclusive society. On a sunny morning, nearly a year after that fateful traffic stop, Devin stood outside his home, reflecting on how far they had come. The vibrant neighborhood around him was filled with families, laughter, and the promise of unity. The work was ongoing, but the seeds they had planted were beginning to flourish. As he prepared for another community meeting, Devin felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was committed to ensuring that Crestwood Heights would remain a place where everyone felt valued and respected, a community that thrived on understanding and compassion. The journey had transformed him, but it had also transformed the community. Together, they had proven that change was not just a dream. It was a reality forged through collective effort, resilience, and unwavering hope. With every step forward, they were creating a brighter future, one that embraced diversity and celebrated the strength that comes from unity. And as Devin took a deep breath, stepping into the meeting, he knew that they would continue to move forward, together.